Hello everyone and welcome to another video in the query formula series on Google Sheets. So this is going to be a video where we are going to go out of all the basics and we're going to start looking at how we can use this formula in various other contexts. Okay, and we can also see how we can add other kinds of elements into it so that we can use it under varying scenarios. Okay, so if this is your first video, I would recommend you to go back to all the previous videos, check those out, because we have taken it from the basics. We have gone from starting to learn what the query formula is, to writing our first simple query, and to doing all the other operations that one does when they work with SQL or with query formula itself, right? So do check them out, and with that, let's continue in this journey. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the usage of the query formula with SPARKLINES. Okay, so before we get to how we can use this, I'm going to first be going over a small crash course on what SPARKLINES are. So SPARKLINES are miniature visualizations. So these are visualizations graphs which are encapsulated in a single cell. So if you can see the cell C2 here, so you can put these SPARKLINES or these little miniature visualizations inside these cells. Okay, so this is there in Excel and in Google Sheets. In Excel, you have to go to menu and click it and select the range and do all that stuff. Whereas in Google Sheets, we have a formula. We have a formula called SPARKLINE, right? As you can see over here. Okay, I'm just going to expand this a little bit. Yeah, so we have a formula called SPARKLINE over here, with which we can choose the data and then turn other parameters as well. So let's see how this works first, and then we'll see how to apply the query formula inside this. Okay, so I have this little table over here. Okay, so this is the day and this is quantity. So let's say this is basically the number of units sold on a given day. Okay, now if I want to, let's say I do not have space in a dashboard, or I want to show this as a miniature visualization, just as a reference for somebody to see what's the trend of the sales going on, or what's the trend of the quantity that's being sold and things like that. Okay, so for that case, we can use these SPARKLINES to turn this little mini table into a very effective visualization. Okay, so let's see how do we do that. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to start using the SPARKLINE formula. Okay, so when I do this, I'll just open this and show you the parameters. Alright, so you can see here SPARKLINE basically consists of the data and options in square bracket, which essentially means there are optional arguments in this, right? It depends on what you want to tweak and what you want to add, and only then you add. Okay, so you can see an example formula over here. There's a data range and then there is a set of parameters. Okay, now in the set of parameters, if you see there is options, right? So there are all kinds of options in this thing. So what do those options look like? Let's take a look at that. So if you see here, you can create a miniature chart. Okay, so you have the data, which is basically the range containing the data to plot, and these are the options. So one you have is the chart type, where you can specify what kind of graph do you want. So we have 4, we have line, we have bar, we have column, and we have win-loss, right? Like positive, negative, like a coin toss, heads, tails, like that. Okay, and then you have, for each of these graphs, you have various other sub parameters. Like for example, for line graphs, you can set the minimum value, maximum value, color, how to treat the null values, how to treat the non-numeric values, and so on and so forth, right? Same way for column, you can tweak the color and all these things, right? You can convert, ignore, y min, y max, determine if it is rendered left or right, and for all that stuff, correct? So if you go over this documentation of the SPARKLINE, you can choose to write how do you want your graph to look like. So we're not going to go very comprehensive into these features. We're just going to do a simple one and add maybe 2 features just to show how this functions. Alright, so let's start writing this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this data first. Okay, and then I'm going to write our options. So to write our options, we have to write it in this fashion. As you can see here, they are encapsulated under a curly bracket. Okay, so let's say I want a line graph for this. So I'm just going to put this and I'm going to start writing. So chart type, I'm just going by how it's written on the syntax. Chart type, I'll say line. Okay, and I'm going to close this bracket. That's all. I'm just going to write this much. Okay, so we have data, and in the options I have written that I want chart type as line. Now when I press enter, you can see that there is a graph that's come up, right? So basically, if you see, this is 250, that's 400, this is 370, this is 434, and that is 600, right? It's a straight line graph. Okay, so so this way I have specified the line graph. Okay, now as you can see that if I just expand this, you can see it's a very thin line graph, and maybe it's fine for a reference, but you can always beautify it. So let's add a few more parameters and see how we can make this graph a little better. Okay, so I'm just going to go over this, and to add new parameters I'm going to do it the same way. Okay, so everything works in pairs. So if I say chart type, I specify chart type comma line. So the next parameter I will specify, and then I'll write the equivalent one. Okay, so let's see, I want to change the thickness, and we'll change the color of this. Okay, so I'll get back the help here again, and we'll go to the line type. So for line graphs, you can see over here, so there is a color argument, sets the color of the line. Okay, and we have line width. Okay, so determines how thick the line will be. Okay, so let's write those arguments over here. So I'm going to first write color. Let's say I'll write blue. So remember, for color you can either write these keywords as is, like blue or whatever is there in the dictionary of the formula, or you can choose your hexa codes for the colors. You can take a specific hexa code of the color and add that in the formula itself. Okay, so we've added next set of parameters, color blue, and then I'm going to go for same way line width. I'll just close this. Yeah, line width, and then I'll make it as 0.5 for now. Let's see how does it look. I'm going to close these brackets. There's an error coming somewhere. Okay, let's go with just this for now. Okay, there is an error coming, so it has to. Okay, yes, I know what the error is. So when we are writing like this, right, so now this is one set of parameters where we are defining the chart type as line. This is another parameter where we are setting color as blue, and this is another parameter where we are setting the width. To separate all these, we use a semicolon and not a comma. So that's the error that's there over here, and I'm going to do that, and you can see the color of this has changed. Okay, however the line hasn't gotten thicker, probably because my value is very small. Yeah, this is not going to work with quotes. So let's increase the width. Let's make it 1.5. Oh, there's an extra comma here. Let's see, do we have everything correct? Bracket. Yeah, there you go. See, now you can see the line has become thicker and the color of the line has changed. Okay, so these kind of lines are very good for week over week analysis, day over day analysis, and things like that, right? Or if you're looking at some kind of pacing variation, right? How much have we spent versus the budget, or how much do we need to cover versus the total expected coverage, and things like that. So for those, these lines graphs are excellent. You can hide your raw data. You can only keep it in visualizations. If you have many categories against which you have to track it, then these lines can provide like a snapshot view of the trend analysis across them, and you can easily do you can easily pinpoint as to what the problem areas are and delve deep into it. Okay, so this is a short tutorial on sparklines, and just to kind of drive the point of how these things are useful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep this formula somewhere here, but I'll remove the equal to. So I'm just going to keep this formula here because we will use this again. Now what I'll do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to come to our data set which we have been using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the month, and I'm going to use the total sales. Okay, so I want to see what is the month over month total sales that we have in this data. Okay, so we will use the query formula to write that. So I'm just going to say query. As always, I will use the Adidas sales data set. Then I'm going to use the columns, which is select n sum of g. Okay, so n comma sum of j, which is our total sales, and then we go group by n. That's because we have a sum. There is an error. What is the error? No column n. Oh, okay, that's because I added the column n afterwards. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and select it as this for now. Yeah, all right. So you can see here that we have the month over month analysis, month versus total sales. Okay, now I want to change this table just like the previous one. I want to change it into a sparkline. Okay, I want to change this into a sparkline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this formula that we have. I'm going to bring it over here first. Oops, I'm just going to bring this over here. Remove this. All right. Now let us now replace this formula itself and see what is the difference between using the query formula with the sparkline and a basic formula that we used in the previous instance. Okay, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this query as my data argument. So if you can see here in my data argument for the previous formula, it was A1 to B6. It was a small table which we had in the previous instance. Okay, but now I will replace this argument with the query formula. Now how do we do that? So I'm just going to put back the equal to symbol. Okay, and I'm going to okay, before we do that, let me get the query formula first. So this is the formula we have, and then I'm just going to paste it over here. So now you can see instead of the data column, instead of the data argument, I have the query formula, right? This table, whatever generates this table is what I've added as my data. If I enter this, I'm getting an error. Okay, now what is happening? What is happening in this case is if you see here, we if a sparkline is denoted only by a single value, right? Either it's a quantity or a total sales. There are no two values here. It's not represented by two columns. It's represented by a single column. Okay, so in that case, what we need to do is we need to tweak this data table a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to come here and do is I'm going to get the same table, but I will remove this month column. I'm going to get the same numbers broken out by month, but I don't want this month column to be in my table. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this n completely. Okay, now this has happened because of the formats. I'm just going to change that real quick. Number. There you go. So it's essentially the same. So if I put it back again, see, it's essentially the same number. Okay. So what I have done is I have just removed the dimension column from the table, but the numbers over here in the fact column is broken out by the same dimension. And how do we know that? It's because I have written sum of j, but I have put group by n. Okay, so if you put it by some other dimension, let's say let's do it by invoice date. So if I put it by C, now these numbers change because now this is broken out by day and not by month as we had it in the previous instance. Okay, so depending on what you choose in your group by, you can convert this two column table into a single column matrix, so to speak. Okay, now this is what I'm going to add over here because now I have a single column of values across which a graph will be drawn. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to replace this query with this. And you can see there's a line graph here, right? There's a very big line graph, and you can see the trend of this. Now, if you look at this table and the numbers like this, you really don't know, whether it's going up, down, which instance it's gone up, which instance it's gone down. But you put it in a graph like this, and suddenly you know how the trend is going, right? There's a big jump over here, and there's another big jump over here. There was a dip here, and there is a this here. So you can then go to those specific points and then see for which month and for which this did it fall off, right? So if I go back here and add that column again, now you can see that, right? So there was a dip here, and then from this number to this number we had a sudden jump, and that's why we can see how the trend is going. Okay, so if you see the formula here again, the data argument is replaced by the query formula, and then we have added more parameters. Okay, and similarly, let's say we can even do a column chart for this. So if I change this to a column, now you can see how it looks. We have just changed the chart type, and we have gotten this graph over here. All right, so a very interesting way of using your query formula and using the data in a different fashion to visualize them in a very effective manner in this way, so that your insights are ready to go in a moment's notice. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can use this in your day-to-day work. Please do like this video. Do comment on what kind of videos do you like for me to do on this channel, because that is what I will try to make those videos on that, and deliver it to you guys. So do subscribe to this channel for all that data related content, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.